There are many names within the video game industry that many of us know and many of us consider to be legends. Shigeru Miyamoto, Hideo Kojima, so on and so forth. But what about Osamu Sato? I can imagine that a lot of you are not so familiar with the name compared to those other two examples I mentioned. I first encountered his name back when Kid Icarus's video on LSD Dream Emulator came out. After watching that video, I did a Google search on the game and I found the name of the man behind it, the elusive figure that produced game after game, most of which now have cult followings. LSD Dream Emulator is the game that gets mentioned the most out of the works that Sato has produced, but others exist as well. For example, Eastern Mind. It's a bizarre point-and-click adventure game produced in the mid-90s in which you traverse an island shaped around Osamu Sato's head, get killed in order to progress throughout the game, and see a creature dying on its own legs, and much more. It's an eccentric little game, but it's definitely something unique, which is most likely the reason why a cult following sprung up for the game, and why that cult following in the early 2010s became fixated on the sequel. Chu-Teng, the sequel to Eastern Mind that was so rare, so unknown, it was said to be a hoax, to not even exist, to be an unfinished prototype. Sit back and grab yourself some snacks and a drink, because we're about to dive into the wormhole that is Chu-Teng, the lost sequel to Eastern Mind. Eastern Mind, like LSD Dream Emulator, has its fair share of fans. Thanks to the power of the internet, obscure little games from lesser known parts of the world tend to find their way into the hands of internet dwellers, and games that bombed critically and commercially at the time of release, or were just relatively unsuccessful and had limited releases to begin with, they get a new wave of popularity. LSD Dream Emulator was unknown to the rest of the world until the internet got its hands on it, giving it a new wave of popularity. So much so that a fan remake has been in the works for a few years now. Eastern Mind, like LSD, received its own following, a Tumblr page being created to host a download link to the game. This game has its fair share of fans. So when fans searched for more content made by the elusive figure that is Osamu Sato and the teams that he led, they came across holes, gaps within the releases of his work. A notable example would be Roly Polies, an educational game Sato made after his previous work was considered disturbing in its style. It is now lost to time, copies nowhere to be found, a fate the sequel shared, but for many the most notable gap was the sequel to Eastern Mind, Chu-Teng, a game that, while it did get mentioned alongside other titles from Osamu Sato and his company, Outside Director's company, it had very little evidence elsewhere to suggest that it actually released. So rare that people didn't even know if it had released or not. Did it even exist? Was it a game that was never released? Was it an unfinished prototype? It was in 2012 when a particular article was released onto the site cracked.com, sparking mass interest in Eastern Mind and subsequently Chu-Teng, when it was mentioned in vague details by the writer of the article. This article caught the attention of different parts of the internet, sparking a hunt for Chu-Teng, the game that was seemingly lost to time. To find out how a collective had sprung up to find a game that was seemingly lost, I had to go back to day 0, the day that it all began. Doing some digging, I found an old article on a site named The Obscuratory, revolving around Eastern Mind, posted on January 12, 2012. It's a fairly standard review of the game, but what caught my eye was the small section on Chu-Teng, quoted as such. Osamu Sato created a sequel to Eastern Mind titled Chu-Teng. The game was only released in Japan, and only on Macintosh. It is an insane rarity that has only been spotted for sale on the internet once or twice ever. Based on a brief email correspondence I had with Osamu Sato, even he doesn't know of any available copies. The rough translation is this: it's become the discontinuance of making. I think it is difficulty with acquisition in Japan. Maybe you will check Japanese auction sites diligently. To my knowledge, there is no record of anyone having ever played this game, The only pictures of Chu-Teng are available are from the official website for outside directors, Osamu Sato's company that developed both games. While the article on the Obscuratory had caught the attention of many interested in retro games, and especially ones that are obscure, it was seemingly not enough to spike mass interest in finding the game. It would be 5 months later, on May the 12th, in which an article posted to correct.com would spark a mass wave of interest in the game, listing 6 games, including that of LSD Dream Emulator. It includes Eastern Mind, and a mention of Chu-Teng. Quote, "The game's creator made an even more bizarre sequel called Chu-Teng or Chu-Teng, but apparently nobody has played it and survived, because there's little record of it online." The references to Chu-Teng seem to be based off the limited research the author of the Obscuratory article did, but with some added exaggeration. It would be this article that caught the attention of sites across the net. All across the internet, forum sites reacted to this particular article. GOG.com, IGN, GameFAQs, and even the forums of hardware site Overclockers. Thanks to such sites, interest in the article and the games in the list, including Eastern Mind and Chu-Teng, remained strong throughout the remaining months of 2012, interest in the article remaining prominent even in the beginning of 2013. Unbeknownst to the average internet user at the time, the interest in this article would soon result in a sea of internet denizens determined to hunt down the lost sequel to Eastern Mind. The hunt for Chu-Teng was on. Before I go into detail, I might as well give a brief overview of the site the search blossomed on. 4chan. 4chan is a pretty well-known image board, launched in the early 2000s. While it's known for being a place where subcultures thrive and a place that does harbour not safe for work content, 4chan is an extremely efficient hub for activism and group efforts to occur. It would be in 2013 in which the users of 4chan's retro gaming board, VR, collaborated together to find the elusive game. Starting off, the first known reference to Chu-Teng could be found on a post made on April 6, 2013, centered around LSD Dream Emulator. While the post was mainly focused around the oddity that is the game, the topic of discussion soon turned to the information presented in the article, and the Obscuratory article by an anonymous poster responding to a mention of Eastern Mind. Quote, "It has a sequel too, though only in Japan. All 3 are directed by the same person, so similarities aren't surprising. The 3 that the person is mentioning is LSD Dream Emulator, Eastern Mind, and Chu-Teng." The conversation soon derailed to talk about how rare Chu-Teng was, many wondering how it could have become so rare in the first place. With a suggestion from one anon who suggested that VR should work together to find the game, the posters on the thread began to examine any possible leads they had. Soon enough, links to images of the supposed game were posted in the thread. People were quick to also make the distinction between Sato's album titled Chu-Teng and the game that was apparently made and released. This was when the first clear information on the game had come to light. The game did actually exist. It wasn't a hoax or an unfinished prototype as many have been led to believe. Taking a look at the page, it confirms via translation that the game is meant for PC, although at the time we did not know what PC meant. Macintosh? Windows? However, as people looked through the official listing on the site that Osamu Sato's company owned, it was confirmed that Chu-Teng was seemingly a game for Macintosh. This discovery confused a lot of people as the previous game, Eastern Mind, had been exclusive to Windows. With the post beginning to reach the limit for commenting, Anon soon moved over to a new thread. Search results continued on April 9th, 2013. One Anon attempted to contact 4chan's otaku board, JP, but to no results. Others attempted to reverse search images that were supposedly of Chu-Teng, thus tracing them back to their sources in which they could then contact people or dig for more info. Conflicting information became common around this point in the search. Sites that Anons had found and dug through giving information that seemingly implied that the game was for Macintosh or Windows or both. Seemed that the sites themselves knew very little about the game. Those in the search considered most possible options. One anon suggesting that the 4chan users who live in Japan should attempt to find the game as well, seeing as they are technically the closest to the supposed game. However, things briefly changed when the first valuable lead arose, posted by the user Princess Bubblegum. A direct link to the existence of Chu-Teng had been found. A Japanese Twitter user, Arita Meguro, supposedly had a copy, offering up some high quality images of the box of the game on a site, while one anon attempted to contact Arita Meguro via Japanese and others doubted the accuracy of the Japanese that the anon wrote to Arita Meguro. It was a step in the right direction and the search would continue, all the while waiting for Arita Meguro to respond. The search had not only interested those in the threads on 4chan, but those outside of it as well. Posted to a forum for Macintosh related rumours by the user Monkeys on May 28, 2013, was this: ripping Mac games on a PC. Is it possible? I'm curious because I've come across someone with the exceptionally rare Mac game Chu-Teng, but he hasn't got a Mac on which to play it. Since there are potentially thousands of people who would be exceptionally interested in playing the game, I was wondering whether it was possible to rip files from Mac game discs on a PC. Can anyone help me out? The thread would receive responses, but not enough to give information on how exactly to rip the data from a Mac game. It would be 1 month later, on June 25th, 2013, in which anons would find the post by Monkeys on 4chan, and with the new anons thanks to the new threads, and finding Monkeys' contact info, it would reinvigorate the search immensely. In addition, the anon who reached out to Twitter user Arita Meguro would receive a response, to which, sadly, would lead to a dead end. Quote, I spoke to him briefly and he says that he won't give it away because he doesn't have a Mac to play it on, and he won't rip the files because it's illegal. Despite this, anons continued to search for the game, Arita Meguro becoming the subject of the search. Many attempted to ask them about the game and persuade them that it was not breaking the law to make a copy of the game, but Arita Meguro refused these claims. With possibilities dwindling, anons attempted to message people on 2chan, the Japanese 4chan-esque site, to which there were seemingly no replies. Others began to become concerned, believing Chu-Teng to be another hoax, like Lost Boy. For context, Lost Boy was a supposed video game that was actually a front for a RAT file, a kind of virus designed to infect computers. The concern among those in the search was that Chu-Teng was another front for a virus. With hope dwindling in the search, it seemed that Chu-Teng would never be found. That is, until a Japanese anon came into the thread and revealed that he had a Mac copy. I find it almost fitting for Chu-Teng to be as rare, obscure even, as it is. Created by Osamu Sato, a man who is very much a mystery, like the games that he makes. It's a game that did release, but somehow doesn't have a single image file floating around on the internet. It begs the question, how did it just vanish like this? How is it that the man who made the game doesn't even own the game he made? It makes very little sense to me, but when so little information exists, it really does take a collective of people to dig up the past and bring it to the future, which is exactly what happened here. June 28th, 2013, the same thread from before. An anonymous Japanese user claimed to have a copy. Quote, hello guys, I'm sure to have Chu-Teng for Macintosh somewhere within my old junk stuffed in the attic. Stumbled upon this thread by luck. Is it truly that rare? With hopes of finding the game extremely low from the anons in the search, the comment was immediately perceived as a troll trying to mess with them, to which the Japanese anon responded quite venomously, posting a link to an image of his copy. While the file has long since been deleted, it seems, this was enough to change the opinions of the disheartened anons. Desperation turned to pure excitement as the single strongest link to Chu-Teng had landed directly into their hands. Excitement soon turned to requests for rips of the game, to which a new task for the Anon searching for the game was made, to help the Anon extract the data off the copy of the game, as the Anon who owned the copy was worried they wouldn't be able to deliver the expected results. Quote, "Guys, I'm in no way hyper/ego/fragile. Problem is, I have no CD/DVD drive attached, must put together old machine before any image can be made. Another problem is, what's the best way to make a Macintosh game image for preservation on PC? Anonymous users would give multiple suggestions to the Anons, such as using a CD drive or burning the game via image burn. It seemed that the advice had helped, because with the help of the Anons, the anonymous poster with the copy of the game would soon vanish, but not before leaving one more message before doing so. Sorry, I'm a busy man working late night hours. While I work, many people sleep and vice versa. My spare time is very limited and precious. Patience is a virtue. I alone searched this game for about 4 years. A week that is not that much, and it will cost you no monies in the end. Have no Skype or reason to install it. Glad to help you with one more obscure game to find. I also had Garage back in time, but not nowadays. Once everything will be prepared and image done, I'll post here a message with download link. Later guys!" The Garage that the Anon is referring to is another one of Osamu Sato's games that he worked on, which has also been lost to time. With the Anon with the copy of the game gone for a week, Anons patiently waited for the poster to return. In the meantime, the searchers considered hunting down some of Sato's other works, such as his lost educational games like Roly Polies or the aforementioned Garage, which had also gained some significant traction during the search for Chu-Teng. Other Anons would take to playing through Eastern Mind in celebration for what would soon happen. Days came and went, and the poster returned. The search for Chu-Teng was over. Hi guys, sorry for tormenting you for a few days, but there's always Sunny Point in the end. Your waiting for Chu-Teng is now over. After long decision to satisfy everyone with the best compatible image, I prepared it in DMG format compatible for Macintosh and PC users. It can be mounted as normal ISO disk image or burned that way. Game was also tested on Emulator and real Macintosh with 100% working result. While the link to the game seems to have been removed from the thread, the information on how to launch the game and mirror links to downloading the game would soon spread across the net, a guide being set up on a Tumblr page on how to beat the game into a working format would soon be released by those in the search and Osamu Sato fans. The search has come full circle. The Obscuratory, who first mentioned Chu-Teng in their Eastern Mind post, released an article on July 5th, 2013. From 2008, when the article on Eastern Mind had been posted, to 2013, when it was found, the search for one of Osamu Sato's lost games was finally over. A game so obscure, so rare, that it was initially believed to have been unreleased, to not even exist, to be a hoax. A game that is so shadowed in mystery and is so rare that its creator didn't even own a copy of it. How a game from the 90s became so rare like this and only managed to be dug up in 2013 for the public to fully see is beyond me. Some things become better, more intriguing with age. What is uninteresting 20 plus years ago becomes a common fascination years later. In the internet age, in a sense, the past becomes the future.